All right, what's going on, everybody? Episode 3 of the DC Sports Podcast. Got a really cool episode for you guys today. I'm going to keep this intro short, and then we'll get into our episode with Matt Broder from Woodward Sports, Lions beat writer, and talk a little bit draft, talk a little bit about the Tigers. We also got to see his live reaction to the new jerseys after they got leaked. Piss off, fanatics. That's unbelievable. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy. All right, episode 3 of the DC Sports Podcast. With me, I have Matt Broder, beat reporter for the Tigers and the Lions and host of Up Woodward. Thank you for joining me, Matt.
Thanks, Caleb. I appreciate you for having me on. We were just talking a little bit before you kick things off. It's like there's so much going on in Detroit right now, especially with the Tigers and the Lions with the NFL draft coming up. So I'm pumped to be talking to you, man.
Yeah, for sure. Well, before we go Lions and Tigers, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit.
Oh boy,
I know. You collect sports cards, right?
I do.
Yes, I do
All
as
right.
well. So I need to hear your best sports card investment, your worst, and a player you're PCing or investing in right now. I got some bad ones. So I got some pretty terrible ones.
There's one that just came to my mind, and I might have a better one that I'll think of maybe later on in our talk. But player I'm PCing right now. To be honest, I'm not investing in anything right now. I've had to take a little bit of a break, watch the finances a little bit.
Yeah.
But I've collected most of my PC is some Detroit athletes, Derek Jeter, Steve Yzerman, and I have a Kirk Gibson and a Jim Abbott little mini collection building.
Nice.
So those are some of my favorite players growing up. I love Jeter. He was almost a Michigan baseball player. Yzerman, is the captain. And then Jim Abbott, Michigan baseball, and Kirk Gibson, Michigan State baseball, but a legend nonetheless. But my best sports card, I think, is that I still own. I believe it's a 1960. Actually, I should remember this. Either 63 or 64 Gordie Howe, Parkhurst Gordie Howe. So not his rookie card, but it's got the American flag in the background, and it's just like it's so classic to me. I don't even know if it's the most valuable of his cards, but it's so, I don't know, it's so pretty. Like, it's just classy. And then last, my worst, actually, you said worst investment, right? Not worst sale?
Investment, yeah. Like a player you were buying that you were like, this guy, he's next. And then.
It's between, no, it's got to be Ben Simmons. I was going to say it's between Ben Simmons or Kristaps Porzingis.
I mean, Kristaps' price has to be a little high right now, right?
He's playing good ball. I got it at its peak. This is like COVID at the peak. He was playing well. He just traded to Dallas. I don't know. He's this unicorn. I was like, if he stays healthy, he could do some special things in the league as a star.
Yeah.
He's a great role player now for the Celtics. It just hasn't panned out.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, that happens with cards. I spent a little too much money on some Trey Lance. Regret that. Some Zach Wilson. I mean, I was so bought in on that quarterback class. With I had some T-Law. I mean, his price is whatever right now, but Trey Lance, Zach Wilson. But you live and you learn. And I was never, all my friends are stock market. They're smart enough to do that stuff. I was like, during COVID, I was like, I'm going to get into sports cards because I can't do stock market. I don't know what's going on. So,
you're speaking my language. You're able to hold your investment, and it's cool.
Exactly.
So we're cooler than them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I tell myself. So, yeah, but, I'm really excited for this draft coming up. One thing I want to say is I think a lot of people are going to, coming from out of state, are going to be really surprised of how nice of a city Detroit actually is. It gets a little bit of a bad rap, but I was just there for opening day, and it's gorgeous city. It's a huge party down there. I can't even imagine what the draft is going to be like. I'm hearing everything's already blocked off down there. Yep. I'm really looking forward to, the out-of-towners come and see what Detroit's all about.
Yeah, and I think we're going to get a good amount of out-of-towners. When you think of the NFL draft, the markets around Detroit, regardless of the records of their teams, but you got Cleveland and Indy, and we're just right in the middle. I mean, we're not really right in the middle, but there's a easy access to a lot of different teams. And it's such a good point. Bringing this this many these people to Detroit to see really what the city has turned into, and it's still on the rise. I mean, I was down there for opening day too. It was actually my first opening day ever,
Me
and
too.
just to
Yeah.
see the excitement, just to
Yeah.
see the excitement of a Tigers team that, although I'm optimistic about them, it's still the Tigers, and they got a ways to
Mhm.
go. But the amount of fun that everyone was having, how good the city looked.
Yeah.
They're doing so much too to put on this NFL draft. I can't wait to see the final product. I don't know if we're going to get any teases at the uniform reveal tonight. Like that's happening.
The
It's day
jerseys
after day.
leaked. Did you see
Did,
the jerseys leaked?
did they leak more than that one? It's like that one really dark picture from like behind the scenes.
No, they
Or is that what you're talking about?
no, Fanatics, there was a I forgot who put it on Twitter, but, yeah, the Lions actually just posted a video. I'm gonna let you do your
Today?
thing here. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna let you do your thing right here if you need to tweet something out. They got leaked, and then the Lions put out a video with a Lee McNeil in the jersey basically saying, like, "Really, Fanatics? Like, we worked so hard on this." They're sweet, man. They're sweet.
Hey.
Yeah,
So you look. So you know what? While you're talking, I don't need to tweet anything out, but
yeah,
you're gonna get my reaction
yeah.
live.
They're sweet.
And it's on Twitter. Should I be looking for Detroit Lions?
Um, yeah, I mean, I'll try to see
Oh,
here. Yeah,
oh,
the
I
black
see.
jerseys are back.
Black jersey. I want to see what they look like on somebody.
You can kinda see it on a Leam in the video the Lions posted.
Okay, okay. I'm not giving you the most exciting reaction. They look cool.
Yeah, they're cool. I mean, I like them a little bit old school, block letters. The blue is nice.
Yeah, interesting. I was so the last thing in maybe I missed. I was down in Allen Park for Brad Holmes' press conference today,
Mhm.
and then I scooted right back up for a show. Then had a meeting. So this must have all just happened. There's a lean in the blue.
Yeah.
Oh,
I like the white
so
letters too. They're looking nice.
yeah, I like them. I don't at first glance I don't see much difference, at least in
Mhm.
this blue. Um, but that kind of excites me.
Yeah.
I'll look more after, but I was worried they were going to make some wholesale change, and I know
Yeah.
they were teasing it's going to be an odd to the traditional jerseys. I
Yeah.
like that the black is sort of a classic black. I really
Mhm.
didn't like it with all the silver back in the Megatron days.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, a lot of people liked those and were asking for them back, but I wasn't a huge fan of the black jerseys like back in the day with Megatron, and I wasn't a huge fan of those. But I
Yeah,
like these ones right here.
there was almost too much silver. There's the black that I got that I'm looking
Yeah.
at, Jared Goff jersey. I like how black it is. But
Mhm.
like I'm interested to see what pants they're wearing with it, what helmet. But you're right, the lettering's great. It'd be interesting to see with Fanatics and what they've done in Major League Baseball.
Oof.
The names on the back. I hope that the names are all right too.
Yeah, yeah.
Such a
That's
bummer that
rough.
it was Fanatics leaked that. Come on.
It was like God, I forgot who tweeted it. I want to give him credit, but it was like an ad on like a USA Today page, a Fanatics ad, and it had the jersey up there. But yeah,
Someone got fired this morning.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And all the lines, I saw Anzalone tweeting it like, "Fanatics, really? What are we doing here? Like, we had this whole thing planned." But you know, I like them. Look good, play good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now,
Yeah,
now we'll see what helmets they roll with whenever
yeah,
they're able to change those again. I think soon. So we'll
yeah. I
see.
think that.
But
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, Lions picking at 29 this year. I mean, Brad Holmes talked about it a little bit in the presser today. He got asked a couple questions about trading up and even maybe trading back. And, he was joking about, the drafts in Detroit. And if he trades back, people are waiting all night for that pick. And if he trades back, the reaction he's going to get. Um, are you content with staying at 29? Or are there guys there you really like there? Or do you think it's necessary to trade up to, the top 15 for maybe a guy like Arnold from Alabama or Dallas Turner or someone like that?
I like those two guys. I'm content at 29. And
Mm,
if it were up for me, there are only a few guys that I would trade up for. Terry and Arnold, Dallas Turner are two of those guys. I like Latu out of UCLA, but I don't know if I would trade up higher than the 20s, into the teens to get him, even though it's probably where he's going to go. I think the draft is so not necessarily so deep, but the talent in like the top 3 rounds, I think,
Mhm.
is really strong at various positions. I'll say of need for this Detroit Lions team. We know they have a relatively complete roster, but when you're looking at reinforcements on the offensive line or getting a cornerback, getting more secondary pieces, or even a wide receiver, like I like the defensive line too. I like the players sort of up until the projected 120,
Yeah.
130, like, and there are fine players after that, but there's a gap in there between 73 and 164 for the Lions. And
Mhm.
I would love if someone wanted to trade up for a player or get a quarterback on a 5-year contract in the first round to go get another second rounder or a third and a fourth, just like
Yeah.
add some more in that area
Yeah.
while not having to move back too much. Uh,
Mhm.
it's so hard to predict, not knowing like really what Brad Holmes is thinking. Like
Exactly.
if he wants a receiver, what if he wants Brian Thomas and like
Yeah.
he'll trade up for a wide receiver?
Yeah.
I I don't. It's so hard to predict.
It's I've kind of fell under, and I think a lot of people have. I fell under kind of um this Brad Holmes spell where I could hear my name called on next Thursday, and I'd be like, "That's a good pick. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I like it." Um, I mean, whatever he does, I think every fan should have full trust in Brad Holmes, whatever he does.
Yeah,
Um,
but
and
channeling. What about your like? I'll try to take Brad Holmes out of it too. Like if it
mm,
were you, what would you do with that 29th pick?
um, I there I'm a big Kool-Aid McKinstry guy. So if
Okay.
he's there, I'm staying there. But if Brad Holmes has the feeling that he'll be gone, I would move up to maybe the 20 range to get
Mm-hmm.
him there.
Get in before Tampa, who needs a
Yeah.
cornerback, or before
Yep.
some of those other teams. Yeah, just to get your guy.
Yeah. But you know, I guess it's kind of the if we wanted to trade back, which I'm not opposed to doing, I would definitely trade back. If the compensation back was, enough.
Right.
So, because Brad Holmes is a wizard at drafting in late rounds. We see guys, fourth or fifth round who are contributing on the Lions right now. So if he feels like there's a lot of talent in those late rounds, and if he can get 2 seconds or something, or for that first round
Go
pick, go for it,
take it.
do it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but there's two. Well, first I want to. There's a lot of receivers in this draft, and
Yeah. Talk to
I
me.
don't want to say it's the biggest need for the Lions, but I noticed a lot last year we didn't have a guy that can go up and get it. In the red zone, it was all kind of reliant on route running and
Mm-hmm.
you know, the run game, obviously, which helps when you can get 8 yards a pop in the red zone. That helps when you can run the ball on 3rd and 5. That helps.
Yeah.
But in the red zone, I think we missed a guy that can, you could toss it up to him and he can go get it. So, what receivers are you kind of looking at? Maybe not in the first round, but in the second, third. What receivers are you looking at?
Yeah. So each day that goes by the way, I get more and more interested in offense in the first round, like
Hmm.
offensive line or receiver. Um, just the way the game's transitioning, it is an offensive game, and the talent at the top of those two positions is so strong. Not that you can't find other guys later in the draft, but like the top 10-ish receivers, and again, maybe that means you can get them in the second round, but like
Yeah.
top 10, 15 are really good.
Yeah.
Like I'm a big Lad McConkey fan.
Yeah.
I know he's not that go up and get it receiver. And that's the one thing holding me back. I think he
Hmm.
fits everything until you get to the red zone with that need.
Hmm.
But considering how they have done things, he does seem kind of like a perfect fit for just another just assassin of a route runner and a
Yeah.
mismatch that you could make just in his versatility. He can play the outside, but he can
Hmm.
play the inside too. And you know what you're going to get out of him. And I don't see so I love Xavier Leggett. I love
Hmm.
Adonai Mitchell, AD Mitchell out of Texas. Some of the more bigger bodied receivers. Keon Coleman doesn't really do it for me.
Hmm.
Um, but I like those guys, and I certainly would be happy with those picks. I think picturing the offense leading up to the goal line, like I just don't see Jared Goff just sort of chucking it up to a big receiver. Hey, go up and get it. Like everything seems so much more calculated,
Yeah.
and Jared Goff has his own limitations too. So just whatever provides the best mismatch that Ben Johnson and Jared Goff can scheme up and find, whether that's Ladd McConkey or Troy Franklin out of Oregon. He
Mm-hmm.
sort of has maybe moved down the draft boards after a maybe less than exciting combine. But if you look at how he played at Oregon, like he did produce, and he's a deep threat, and he's a good
Yeah.
route runner, decent hands. Like a guy like that is good. I love Roman Wilson, but I'd rather have McConkey than Roman Wilson. Who else out there? Ladd McConkey, Roman,
The Washington
Brendan
boys.
Rice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Brendan
oh yeah,
Rice, you can get him. Yeah, and then Luke McCaffrey. Uh and then like
that's
I
one of
said,
the late round guys.
yeah, the
Okay,
Washington boys besides Adunze, you got McMillan, Polk, those guys too. I mean, this is a deep wide receiver class.
yeah, yeah. The Washington guys don't do it for me, and
Mhm.
I don't really know why. It's just kind of a weird opinion. I've had
I yeah, go ahead.
like, it's something about the offense, and maybe the last time I saw them was against Michigan, and
Yeah.
I just saw how a team. I'll take my Michigan bias out of it. How a
Mhm.
team was able to shut them down with a good quarterback and an elite offensive line. Maybe that's just keeping me away. I'm more. Who would I compare? I would rather go Troy Franklin than a McMillan or Polk.
Mhm. Yeah, I
What
agree
about what
because
about you?
well, I agree the Washington guys don't really do it for me. I think Adunze is a stud, but he's top 10. I
Yeah,
mean, we're not going to
yeah,
trade up for a guy like that. But um yeah, kind of the offense they ran at Washington really favors the receivers. So that I mean, I'm not saying they're not talented guys, but not the guys I'm
all
looking
right,
for. But
right.
I'm really interested in Roman Wilson. I know he's also not a go up and get it guy, but it seems like the Lions have some interest in him and played under Harbaugh.
Hmm.
Um what was he? Was he a 3-year starter at Michigan or a 2-year
I
starter?
think so. Yeah, yeah, and he really came like burst onto the scene this year with
Yeah.
scoring touchdowns. Like he's been a really
Yeah.
good receiver. He just hasn't found the end zone until this year when he found it
Yeah.
in a big way.
Yeah. But I'm also a huge Xavier Legette guy. I mean, if you're 6'3" and you're running a what do you run? A 4.3? I mean, come on.
Right? Like that he's my big body receiver that
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, no big deal.
Yeah.
Like actually he is a big deal.
Mhm. Yeah.
And there's
Yeah,
something
exactly.
character wise. There's something I just like about him.
Uh-huh.
He would fit like a different personality than Roman Wilson, but there's just something fun about his southern accent, and like
Yeah.
he's just gonna come in ready to work.
Yeah, I agree. And I, one thing, I mean, Brad Holmes always talks about it. They're not really worried about position, like we saw last year. Obviously, Jameer Gibbs, Jack Campbell, two picks that weren't necessarily a position of need, but they were football
No,
players. And I'm there's two guys I'm in love with in this draft. I guess they are both position of need, you could say, but they're both just straight up football players. And that's why if the Lions left this draft with these two guys, I'd be happy. First guy's Kool-Aid McKinstry. I mean,
that's your guy.
everyone's saying it casual. I fell in love with Kool-Aid McKinstry. His
I haven't heard anyone as passionate about that. They like
yeah,
Kool-Aid McKinstry, and some have broken him down. He's a good cornerback, but like
yeah,
I haven't seen this type of passion. Or they say he's got a cool name. I haven't seen this, so I'm
yeah,
excited. I'm interested that you said that.
yeah. Well, you can't be bad with the name Kool-Aid. I mean, you're gonna be good.
Right.
And I think his instincts are off the charts. I think he played 80% of his snaps in press at Alabama around there.
Neat.
But his
What you're
zone
looking
coverage,
for.
his feel for zone. It's not like he can't play zone. His feel and zone coverage is off the charts. He's a football player. He could come downhill. He could make plays, and I'm a huge fan of Kool Aid. And my second guy might be a little bit of a homer pick, Zach Zinner out of Michigan.
Okay. Yes.
Who are you gonna
Yes.
say?
I thought you were going Mikey Sanders still.
Oh well, I saw you mocked him a couple times, right? In the
I mocked him to the Lions once, but I think I had him go to the Ravens one time, the 49ers, like at the end of the first round. He's
yeah.
probably a late second round pick,
Hmm.
just looking at all everything about the size, his foot. I mean, he's a great football player, but he has some limitations, you would say. But like for the Lions or for teams like the Lions that are looking for that football guy that he's maybe not the perfect fit with their roster.
Yeah.
Like he's one that it might surprise some people, but nonetheless, you said Kool-Aid and Zinter.
Yeah. Well, back to Sanders for a second. I
Oh yeah,
tweeted this a minute ago or maybe a month ago when the draft process kind of really started to heat up. I didn't really understand what I mean, I know Sandro Stilly's 5'9", but every time I watch Michigan play, he was the best player on the field at all times. I mean, he played the way he plays the game is just so I can't even it was beautiful watching him play, honestly. I
Yeah,
mean, obviously the size, it's concerning, but if you're a football
but that's
player, you're a
it.
football player. Yeah.
And
I
that size seems to be the number one, if not only like true weakness.
yeah.
Like he's versatile, he's smart, he can defend the run. He's like a smaller version of Brian Branch in a
Yeah.
sense. But you said it best. Like he was the best player on the nation's best defense that won a
Yeah.
national championship.
Yeah.
And on your Kool-Aid, not to go away from Sanders still, but when you were talking, I'm a Terry Arnold fan, but if you really look back, Terry Arnold way more this past year, opposing quarterbacks, opposing teams, and that's got to tell you something about Kool. Like, why are they going away from Kool Aid and
Yeah.
going at a top 20 pick? Like Kool
Mhm.
Aid's got some magic in there for sure. But you're right,
Yeah.
Sanders still being the number one player on the number one defense.
You can't argue with that. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to. And
But
Brad, did you watch the press conference this morning?
I did. Yeah.
Like he went right back to the well. Is like we just want the best football player.
Yep.
Like we're convicted for the best football player. There's no needs here. I mean, there are. He didn't say there's no needs. He said
Yeah.
they're not drafting based on a certain position or a certain need.
Yeah. And I would say the needs are less glaring than they were in years past, so he could have a little more fun this year. I mean, not saying he didn't that those were off the wall picks last year, but I mean we signed some corners, Carlton Davis and Meek Robertson. Um I mean we Marcus Davenport, I'm not the biggest fan, but if he could
Right,
stay
me neither.
healthy, he's going to make a huge impact on the defensive line. If he could stay healthy, obviously DJ Reader. So those are, I mean, defensive line, corner, those are kind of the positions in need. We filled those in free agency. Now I think Brad Holmes can kind of just let loose, do his thing, and draft the guys at the top of his board. But,
Yeah,
but back to Zach Zinner. I love Jackson Powers
yeah.
Johnson. I don't think he'll be there for us. I think he'll go a little bit earlier. Um, well, yeah, I think Powers Johnson's going to go around the 20-ish
He
range.
he should
Yeah.
like he should. Who
Mhm.
knows on draft day with trades and is it going to be 4 quarterbacks or 6 or
Yeah.
how high does Brian Thomas go?
Yeah.
So crazy things have happened, but he should be around 20, right?
Yeah.
He's that good.
Yeah. I'd say so. But with
And
Zinner,
the
we could
Lions have
probably
done a
get
good
him.
job drafting linemen from Oregon.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was, I mean, throw it back. What was that? 3 years ago? That was a slam dunk. I mean,
The,
I don't,
the Penny Sewell, but that changed the entire. That was the first building block of
yes.
this organization. Changed everything.
Yes.
Everything.
Yeah. I mean, and I think everybody was expecting, okay, so first year
Micah
you come in.
Parsons.
Yeah. Micah Parsons or quarterback
Yeah.
because, I mean, you just
Oh
trade
yeah, because they
Stafford.
just traded for. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You just trade Stafford. This is your first pick as a new regime. Maybe you want to light the fire a little bit. Get the fans excited, get a young guy to lead this offense in the new era. But they said, nope, we're taking the best player available. He's the best player in the draft. And now he's the best offensive tackle in the league. Maybe I truly think he is. I think he's the best football player in the entire NFL. And that totally, like you said, totally changed everything.
Everything. That's their identity. Brad
Yeah.
Holmes said again today, the trenches. That's their identity. That's what they build off. That
Yeah.
was best pick you could make.
Exactly. But
Zinter.
yeah, Zinter, he when you look at I think we could get him, what would you say, third, fourth round, somewhere around there.
I think so. Yeah.
The injury
That's
against
at least
Ohio
what I've
State
seen.
really,
And
yeah.
yeah.
The injury against Ohio State, I think, hindered his draft stock a little bit because, he was the heart and soul of this dominant Michigan run game. And when you
Mm-hmm.
look at our offensive line, Glasgow 31, I mean, he's getting up there in age, and so is Zeitler.
Yeah.
I think he's around 34.
He's
So
36.
36? All
Yeah.
right.
And he's on a 1 year deal.
Yeah, I might like this pick
Glasgow's
even more.
on a 3 year deal. Who knows if he's a starter in year 3?
Yeah.
but he's that perfect versatile piece.
Yeah.
You're probably looking for, I think if it were up to me, you're looking for a future starter, your next offensive line replacement, whether that's first, second, third, or fourth round. Zinter, I think, is one of those guys that absolutely needs to be considered because you don't need him immediately.
Yeah.
Like, he can still recover. And the fact that it was a broken fibula, right? But it was a clean
Yeah.
break, like a
Yeah.
horrible injury, but clean break. He should be able to return a grueling rehab process, but he shouldn't have like long term effects from that. He should be fine. So
Yeah.
if you can get him, maybe he goes in the second round normally, you get him in the fourth.
Yeah. I mean, and let him sit behind Zeitler and Glasgow for, like you said, maybe 2, 3 years. Learn from those vets. I mean, come on.
Come
I
on.
you get because you gotta. I think what got us here is the offensive line. To this point, really keeping Goff clean. Having a run game that in the Stafford era we never had.
Yeah.
Um, and it's tough to keep a good offensive line for 6, 7 years. So I know we're content as fans with the offensive line now, but I know Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are thinking, what does it look like 5 years from now?
Yeah.
What so they start I would love them to start building, for the future now with
And
especially with those late picks.
yeah, and contractually, you look some of these decisions now with, I know Brad Holmes and Mike Disner, their COO, are thinking like, how our replacements have to be tiered in like a contractual way, where if we're about to pay Penei Sewell, reset the market with him, to be determined if they give a short extension to Decker or to Ragnow. We don't know what's going to happen with him. But if Sewell's going to sign a monster deal, they probably want his sidekick to be like 2 years off from that. Like, you probably
Yeah.
want to get that guy on a, maybe it's getting him on a 5-year deal, where then you extend Sewell for 4, and then you can wait an extra year to pay the other guy if he turns.
Yeah.
Basically, what I'm trying to say is spreading around this money to all these stars now that you've drafted, not just
Mhm.
that you brought in, but like you drafted these guys. It's tricky, but they need to find that replacement for some of these older guys, the
Yeah.
next wave to learn to then play with Sewell,
Yeah.
because Sewell's that building block forever.
Well, off that, some tough, I don't want to say tough decisions because I personally don't think they're very tough. I see some people on Twitter, um, you know,
A lot of people on
with some
Twitter will
opinions.
say,
But these extensions are coming up. Some guys need to be paid. And two guys I really want to talk about here are, Goff and Amon-Ra, two guys that could be extended this offseason, maybe.
yeah,
And I've been thinking about it for a long time. So
what
when
do
you
you
look
think?
at a guy like Daniil Hunter, he got the hometown discount from the Texans. He grew up in Texas, so they didn't have to pay him as much money as a team like we would.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, do you think I'm going to make up a little phrase here? Do you think there's a little bit of a culture discount? And, or I guess the question is,
I like that.
who do you think has the leverage in these negotiations? Because if you're Jared Goff, or I guess if you're Brad Holmes talking to, Jared Goff, you
Mm-hmm.
tell him, look, we got everything set up for you perfect. Offensive line, weapons, um, you know, one of the best head coaches in the league, and the culture. Do you really want to leave this? But on the flip side, Goff can say, do you really want to let go of me? I'm a piece of that culture. I am the foundation. Um, so
That's
I
a great
guess,
question.
yeah. So I guess, yeah. Who do you think has the leverage in these negotiations? Um, the players or the Lions at this point?
And how you phrase, like, the leverage question, how you phrase that, I think is super important, because we've asked the question before on our show, like, who would you extend first? And that can
Mm,
be taken so many different directions. But leverage is tricky, because you might say, you'd probably say 10 out of 10 times it's the quarterback, whoever that is,
yeah,
just because of the role they play on a football team. But there is Hendon Hooker that they have.
yeah,
They do have that offensive line, and I love Goff, and I'm a Goff supporter, and I don't think anyone can just replicate what he does. But with those pieces around, it's it's probably, I don't want to say easier, but I'm going to say easier. It's easier to replace those things than the traits that are irreplaceable of St. Brown. Like you
Mhm.
can replace a wide receiver, and you might even be able to replace production in some way. But what St. Brown brings to this team as the leader, as the one of the faces of it, all the intangibles of his work ethic, the chip on his shoulder, like everything about him on and off the field is so crucial to this team. And
Mhm.
him getting paid as the first player to get paid from that 2021 draft. Like if they don't extend him, if they penny pinch him, the message that they're sending to the guys coming after him
Yeah.
is not so great. But
Yeah.
if you pay him what he's worth, which might be $30 million, what you're saying to everybody you draft, whether it's a first rounder or a seventh rounder, you work your butt off, you're
Yeah.
gonna get a bag. Like if you prove it and you fit in with what we do here in Detroit, you're gonna get paid. And that
Yeah.
just motivates everybody down the line, like literally from the last person on the roster to the top. Like, oh, okay, he did it.
Mhm.
He was a fourth round pick. I can do this. And that
Yeah.
that confidence, you can't measure it.
No. Yeah, and the grit. I mean, he's
There it
that
is.
those are kind of the things you said you can't replace. You can't replace that. I mean, it's the everybody always like when you hear like Jameson Williams, all those guys talk about Amon-Ra. He just puts his head down and he grinds, and that's a guy you need in the locker room. Um, and just
And he's
his
so important to golf. I should have said that. Like
yeah,
he
yeah,
has levers because his game fits so well with golf.
yeah,
And they have a good relationship. So I'd go with the players maybe to answer your question.
yeah. Um, well, like I said, I've seen a couple things on Twitter. I think it's a no-brainer. Are you paying a golf $50 million a year?
I'm paying him 50.
So am I. I think it's
Yeah.
yeah. Like I said, I would sign. I To answer my own question, I side with Goff as well, just because you can't. I, I mean, the team's heading in the right direction, and what you're just going to lose your quarterback, the guy that
Yeah.
brought you from the bottom. Yeah, I mean, I who else make Lamar just got 50 million, right? Jalen Hurts 50.
Yeah. Maybe a little like someone got 52 or 52 and a half, but the numbers are going to keep going up. So
Yeah,
a 50 this year, if they got 50 last year, like you just got to lock him in before it's 60, like
yeah,
before it's 55, 60, 65.
yeah,
And lock him in so then you can pay Penei Sewell. Like he
yeah,
should know. And you talk culture discount. Who know? Like it's hard to ask another man to take less money than he's worth than the market tells him. But
yeah.
like Goff is at his best in this offense with this offensive line. I'm not
Hmm.
taking away from what Goff has done because he still got to do it. But like, there's no better situation in the entire NFL for him specifically. And
Yes,
he can win a Super Bowl here. Yeah, I said it. He
absolutely.
can win a Super Bowl. So
Yes,
why would you go elsewhere for $5 million more? He's
yeah,
made 160 mil.
yeah. And do you really want to add that to your offseason? Is going to try to find your guy? Like that's I don't know.
It's way easier to get worse at quarterback than to get better.
Yeah, yep. And but I don't know when you had to start paying for it.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
right.
Yeah, but
Making it. Yeah.
yeah. All right. Some technical difficulties there, but there's one thing I want to get into before we get into the Tigers. Brad Holmes said something interesting during his presser today. He was basically saying he's not worried about the Super Bowl window, and all he's looking to do is just get better every single year because you see teams fall into the trap of the Super Bowl window, and they have their 2 years of success, and then 2 years after that you see they have no cap space, all their draft picks are gone. So I'm happy to see that Brad Holmes is like I kind of touched on earlier with the offensive line and
Yeah.
making sure the offensive line is good for years. That he's not just looking to next year, he's looking for the future as well. And he's looking at guys that um can contribute right away, but maybe a couple guys that will sit behind veterans for a couple years and get better just watching them. And then once it
Yeah.
comes to year 3 of their career, they're starting and contributing and hopefully leading us to playoff pushes for the next how many ever uh
You
years
just
down the
froze there
road.
for a second. Did I freeze? Oh,
No.
there we go. You're back.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but yeah, just guys that are going to help us, with a playoff push years down the road. And I love
Yeah,
that.
me too. Me too. And I'm in that patient or attempting to be in that patient group. There's a lot of people, and I get it, but there's a lot of people that want it now. They want Chase
Yeah.
Young at the deadline now to go for it now, but not realizing all the things that go into roster management and building a team and paying a team. Like
Mhm.
managing all these different contracts is true. And you look at last year, like their first four picks were starters, and we kind of forget about the other four. Although we've seen some spurts, Colby Sorsdale and whatnot, but they got Broderick Martin, Colby Sorsdale, Antoine Green, developmental guys, like guys
Mhm.
that maybe they are here in the future, but those are those guys that they planned on developing. So
Yeah.
they got the guys at the top of the draft last year. They're developing guys. Now they're in the position where you can go any direction, like you said, but everyone is developing for the future now too. They're the ones that replace the good players. Like
Yeah.
we're going to be seen in Detroit having to say goodbye to good players that we want to keep, but we can't because there's better ones coming up.
Yeah.
Versus years past where we're saying bye to guy. The good ones are leaving because they don't want to stay, and we
They
know
don't
what
want
that
to
means.
be here. Yeah.
They don't want to be here. So I love it. I know Steve Eiserman's getting a lot of flack with the Red Wings now
Yeah.
for a similar mentality. He's trying to rebuild the teams he played for that went to the playoffs 25 straight years, not just
Yeah.
try to get in this year. So it frustrates a lot of people, but I'm with you. I love that Brad Holmes has that long term sense of I would love to win this year, but I want to build a consistent competitive team every single year.
Yeah.
Seems like he's doing.
Yeah, for sure. And look, I talking about the Pistons will make me go nuts. I mean, that team right now,
Oh boy.
so they're just to touch on it real quick. When we're talking about there's how do I explain this? There's really no um pressure on Brad Holmes to um maybe draft a guy this year that's going to be um a starter, honestly. I mean, maybe even the guy in the first round will be a developmental guy. You don't
Yeah.
know. But when you look at the Pistons, they're in a
Oh
weird
boy.
situation where it's where they need to be good next year. Or I think weird stuff's going to happen. And I'm talking like maybe
Like move the
even
team.
yes. I truly think that's in the cards because I mean, it's been what? 7 years since we've been, I mean, how long?
Maybe
I
more,
think
7, 8, 9. It's
yeah.
been a while. It's been since what, 2008, since they were like really competitive.
Yeah. So
They snuck in with Blake Griffin.
yeah, I think they had like 41 wins that year. So
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
they got swept
41.
because Blake got hurt. But Weaver, if he's still the GM, because after they hired the head of basketball operations, who knows if he'll still be around. I personally, look, I hate to, I am this guy, but I hate that I am.
Let it fly.
I want him fired. I want him gone. I want Tom Gore. I've said it a million times. Tom Gores doesn't care about the team. Troy Weaver, I honestly, I would go as far as saying he has no clue what he's doing. But because when you look at his past draft picks, the only one he's really hit on is Jalen Duren. Because if Cade was handed to him, Jay Nivey
Mhm.
was handed to him, if you want to call Jay Nivey a hit. But
Yeah, that's to be determined.
yeah, is this really the guy we want, building our team? But back to my point, he has so I mean, we're gonna have to give Tobias Harris $45 million a year. I mean, we're gonna have to do something like that.
They're in such a bad spot, like
Yeah.
where it's going to take so much to actually build a winning team and a winning organization. Like,
But you
like
have to. You have to
you have
next year.
to, and you have
Yeah.
to do fast. And
Yeah.
I don't know what their strategy is with bringing in this new president of basketball operations. My co-host, one of my co-hosts on the Wake Up Woodward show, Kool-Aid, Brandon Dent,
Yeah.
who's our beat writer for the Pistons. He pulls back the curtain a little bit in terms of how you know there's a lot that goes on in this front office that we don't see, and that Troy Weaver doesn't have. Uh, he doesn't have the type of responsibility or the final decision on some of these things. not to defend Troy Weaver with that,
Mhm.
bringing in this new guy, you either need to give Weaver a chance, like let him do his job
Yeah.
without having to deal with agents and random roles in the front office, um, or you fire like move on, fire him and bring in someone new. If you're going
Yeah.
to continue this front office culture where you just got these random people who are the final decision makers that aren't necessarily like basketball team building guys, they're agents, they're brothers of agents. It's a really messed up
Yeah.
situation. So either give him the reins and let him fail at doing it, and he doesn't
Yeah.
have the best track record here yet. But or just get rid of him and start fresh.
Yeah.
Nothing, no one's going to do well in the current situation, so they
No.
got to figure that out. But if you're not going to do that, don't let Troy Weaver be your scapegoat, because I'm not defending. He's made some bad picks.
Yeah.
Um, I try to channel, Oklahoma City, they're the one seed this year, and it took 8 or 9 years for that rebuild to happen.
Yeah.
We don't have that time anymore. Like
Yeah.
we just can't sit around and wait 8 years. We already have,
Yes.
and we have no signs of like competing yet.
No. I do think if they bring someone new in as the GM, there will be a little leeway because it gives the new GM an opportunity to break it all down and start fresh. But when you're
Yeah.
Troy Weaver, this is what you've built. You've got to own it. You've got to build on what you've already built. But if you bring a new guy in, like I said, I mean, I I probably
What do
wouldn't
you
watch any
do?
games. Yeah, I know. I mean,
There are
and
no free agents that are really going to
no, no,
affect much. You're going to have to pay him a lot. Or do
yeah,
you trade Cade, or do you trade Ivy and Duran?
yeah,
And those trades aren't a guarantee either. So it's like, this is the frustrating part. Like, what is the solution? I don't think there is one. The draft is kind of crappy too.
yeah,
Like, I don't know what to do. There's no end in sight. This was a nightmare season.
nightmare. And um, 3 game or I guess 2 games into the season because we
Nightmare.
started 2-0. You could that energy in Little Caesars Arena. I said this in a video I posted on Twitter. Like this goes for the Wings too. When
Yeah,
when the Pistons are good, the sport as a whole. I don't know if I'm just saying this because I'm from Michigan, but I think a lot of people would agree. When the Pistons are good, the NBA is better because then you could, there's Bad Boys, the '04
yeah.
Pistons. I mean, those are legendary teams,
And they
and
have history with the Lakers and the Celtics
yes,
and the Bulls.
built some because right. I personally think the NBA is a broken product. Ow. I think the NBA is a broken product right now.
I'm with you there,
Because
actually.
there's one of the biggest things was it's Wednesday night. You're a kid. You're watching the biggest rivalries on TNT. Whatever. There's no rivalries anymore. There's
On a
nothing like
Wednesday,
that.
there's nothing. You don't get to
Yeah.
see actual basketball until the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, but
Yeah.
on a Wednesday night, you would tune in to see your team.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
It's
it's it, I don't have the solution. They get paid so much, so I
yeah.
understand their investments, and you do have to protect your investment. You don't just want to like run them into the ground or whatever. But at the same time, like you're able to pay them that because people are in the stands and paying tickets.
Yeah.
I just want to see I want to see professional basketball players play hard every single night they're on the floor.
Yeah.
And I don't think we get that.
Like when because I think there's dog days in besides football. There's dog days in really every sport.
Yeah,
Baseball it's August. Basketball it's I would say around right after a little bit after the All-Star break, like February
yeah.
ish. So when people stop watching NBA basketball for that period, then March Madness comes on, and then you see how hard they play and the defense and they're actually running plays to get open looks.
Hmm.
Um, it's refreshing.
Games in the 60s are
Yeah,
exciting to me.
yeah, it's refreshing. But how do these guys go from that? I don't know if it's the coaching. I don't know what it is. How do guys go from playing like that in college to playing ISO ball in the NBA? I think it just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, money. I agree.
I don't
That's their
know.
point.
I don't know what the other answer is, and it's not that for every player, but
Yeah,
that's what's caused this all.
yeah,
They're now such expensive investments. It's where the whole what do they call it? You're not injured, but load management.
oh,
Like,
come on.
I think
Yeah,
it's the
unbelievable.
dumbest thing ever. But I
Unbelievable.
also, at the same time, I like if I was investing $100 million into a product, I would want to make sure that I see that investment till the end and it lasts as
Mhm.
long as possible. I don't want it to get hurt in December when we're going to be in the playoffs. So that's why it doesn't work. Like something's missing.
Yeah. And my dad is kind of like a, well, number one, he's a sports guy, but he hates NBA basketball right now. But he'll ask me questions once in a while, like, "Oh, how's that Embiid guy doing?" or something like that, and I'll be like, "Well, he's hurt right now," and he's like, "Oh, shocker, shocker, they're all hurt. I mean, everyone's getting hurt. How LeBron play last night? Oh, he didn't play.
Or,
He was, but yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. I still enjoy. I mean, I'm gonna watch it. I'm ride or die Pistons. I mean,
yeah,
I'm going down with the ship. Whatever, I'll do it. But
it's so hard. We've made a conscious effort to make sure we cover all four teams
yeah, do you how do
because
you cover the Pistons?
it's hard. I believe in the long term, like to actually build a sustainable community, our chat, our followers, our viewers for our specific show, especially. You got to be with them when they're bad. Like you
Yeah,
can't just turn it on when they're good. And
yeah.
there's something just ingenuous about that. Like
Mhm.
you got to get through it. So then the actual diehards who, although they suck, they're still trying to consume content, whether it's gaining optimism or learning like how do
Yeah,
we get out of this, or positive or negative. There are still diehard Pistons fans. We can't just shoo them to the side and for the next 3 years until they're good.
yeah,
But if the Lions were 6-12, they would still get more views than the
yeah,
Pistons coverage. So
yeah.
it's such a weird balance. I'm pumped that you brought it up, or just that you shared with me you're a diehard,
Mhm.
while also like having a pretty, you want Troy Weaver gone. This like
Yes.
you have your views and takes, but you're still riding with them. Like you just
Yeah.
want it to be better.
Because me and my friends talk about it all the time, and we saw it with the Lions, and this goes for the Tigers as well. When you're watching them at their lowest point, and then finally one day when they're in the playoffs, that's gonna feel damn good. Especially, I mean, the pit like when the Pistons and the Tigers are in the playoffs, watching them from rock bottom and seeing them in the future make the playoffs, it's gonna be the best feeling in the world. That's why
Best
I stick
feeling.
around. That's why I stick
Yeah,
around.
yeah. You're a real one. You're a true
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Um,
How
but
long till those Tigers get back?
I don't know. Well, the first person I want to talk about is Chris Fetter. I know you played at Michigan. Was he ever your coach?
He was my teammate. So he was a
Oh,
fifth year senior when I was a freshman. So this is the 2008-2009 season.
hmm
And I had known of Feder going into that year. And his senior season, he just elevated his game so much. But he is such a thinker. He's such a student of the game.
yeah,
I don't know where you're going with this next, but I think he's such a great fit for this Tigers team. I think he's got a bright future, but like where they're at now, he's a perfect guy to coach that staff.
yeah. And I put out a poll a while ago. There's definitely 100% a discussion. Maybe not so much because the Tigers haven't had the greatest success. I think there's definitely a discussion. Ben Johnson versus Chris Fetter, best assistant coach in Detroit.
Ooh,
I'm leaning. I'm not gonna lie here. When I'm kind of breaking down the numbers, I think I'm leaning Chris Fetter here. I think I'm leaning
wow.
Chris Fetter, just because when so I got it right here. So in years 2018, 2019, 2020, Rick Anderson, RIP, is no longer with us, but the team ERA 5.15. Those are those 3 years. When Fetter came, 4.20 team ERA, and that's that for the casual baseball fan that might not seem like much. That's a run. That's what wins you those 2-1 ball games. That's what wins you those 3-2 ball games. And just when you look at a guy like Jason Foley or Tyler Holton, guys like that, the things Fetter has able, the thing Fetter, they've been unbelievable, and I give full credit to Fetter on that. Even a guy
Yeah,
like Chafin, who struggled last year, comes back to Detroit, and he's been a really reliable left-handed arm out of the bullpen this year.
yeah.
And I'm excited to see what he could do with Casey Mize. That splitter looks like it's back. Oh my God, that splitter yesterday.
Do you see that one that started? I
Yes.
forget the hitter. It started like at his knee and then finished in the right-handed batter's box.
Crazy, crazy. If he has that pitch, and that goes with Maeda too. Honestly,
Thank you.
if that splitter's there, um, they could be effective. But it's a little bit different from Eyes because, he's throwing, which I'm really happy to see. He's throwing 96, 97, a little rise on the fastball. Um, but with Maeda, it's a little bit different because, he's kind of a hit your
He's got to
spots, little
he's got to pitch a
crafty.
different way. Yeah, like he
Yeah.
doesn't have the velocity to just blow it by you. So
Yeah.
he's
He's
got
got
to
to
use
miss
that
bat. Yeah.
more strategically.
Yeah,
You're
for
right.
sure.
And I gotta give a quick shot. Like Chris Vetter is the man on top, but he has an amazing a biomechanics expert, their assistant pitching coach, Robin Lund, who has a lot to do with this too. But
Yeah.
I agree with everything you said, especially when we get into the Manning or the Mize, well, in Manning, but the Mize, the Scooble, guys who have dealt with injuries, like tweaking their mechanics, like using their bodies in different ways to not only be a good pitcher and improve what they were already great at, but to make sure you don't get injured again. And
Yeah.
Federer's 6'9", and his body, he's long
Whoa.
and he's lanky. Yeah, it's sneaky. You don't see it. It doesn't
No.
appear that way on TV. He's huge. So what he had to do for himself to be successful, learning about his body and how to make it all work to
Yeah.
his advantage, his velocity climbed from like 82 to 96 by his senior year.
Hmm.
So just those things, that experience, I think is huge. Casey Mize is the perfect example. Even though they pitch differently, but just like the things Casey Mize needs to do or how he needs to pitch to avoid those injuries again. Because
Yeah.
when your splitter is your best pitch, when you're throwing 100, there's a lot of stress on your arm and your elbow. And he's had back injuries, but like he has some massive legs, Scooble too. So
Yeah.
like, how can you get the most out of your lower body in
Hmm.
your mechanics to avoid those injuries?
Yeah. And, you know, pitching is a science, really. Everything in baseball is a science. Um, and I saw you. Well, you made a great point on your show about the arm injuries in the game, and
Yeah,
Benetti made a good point about it. I think it was a week ago. These kids from their sophomore year of high school are learning how to throw hard and get as much spin on the ball as they can, and that's from when they're 15 years old.
yeah,
And
maybe younger.
yeah, and a lot of people like to blame the pitch clock for all these arm injuries, but I truly think it's you know just the way they're being taught to pitch.
Yeah,
Nobody's pitching to ground balls anymore.
no,
Everyone's pitching to low by guys and miss bats, which is cool. Strikeouts are awesome. I love them. Who doesn't love a nice strikeout? But um
but how many pitches does it take to strike somebody out? I know it's a
yeah, I mean that
simple question. Three. You have to throw three pitches to get him out. You
yeah,
could get a guy one pitch it takes to get a ground ball
yeah.
or a fly ball. Like the, I'm in 100% agreement with you. For me, it's not the pitch clock. I like that the pitch clock is shortening games and it's making it quicker and
Yeah.
everything. But what these coaches and parents at a young age, they're seeing pitchers be successful at the big league level, throwing hard, like the addition of the analytics and knowing spin rate and all these different things about the velocity. They're working at the major league level. They're getting paid at the major league level. Starters don't have to go 7, 8, 9 innings anymore. They have to go 4 or 5 and throw as hard as they can. Like just let it all loose from pitch 1 to pitch 100. Like
Mhm.
there's no Verlander throwing 92 in the first 3 innings and then ramping it up as the game goes on to
Yeah.
where he's throwing 100 in the ninth. Like
Yeah.
Verlander's a great example too because when he was with Detroit, who was from his words like behind the ball dramatically in terms of their analytics department, he went to Houston. He said he learned all these new things that he didn't realize before, and even at his age, he continued to get better and throw harder. But eventually, he got hurt.
Yeah.
Like the analytics helped him, and he was successful, but it led to Tommy John. It
Mhm.
led to injuries. So it's hard to tell a high school coach or a middle school coach or parent like, no, don't do what you see as being successful or how they're doing it at the major league level. So
Yeah.
these kids they're trying to throw every pitch as hard as possible, spin every slider and curveball at 14 and 15 as hard as possible.
Yeah.
I didn't throw a curveball until I was 17.
Me neither.
That's just how it
Yeah.
was when we were younger.
Yeah. Me neither. But it still resulted in shoulder surgery for me because I was a
Me too.
yeah, I was a kind of just, all right, you're throwing today. All right, no warm up, maybe just game a long toss. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So it's a little different, little
yeah,
different.
yeah.
But part of my injuries, when I was at Michigan, we were doing these weird drills with weighted balls, and I was
Mhm.
trying to throw curveballs with weighted balls and softballs. At the time, it was the new hot thing, but it messed me up.
Yeah,
And no shade on Michigan and my coaches there. That's what was working at the time. It just didn't work for me.
yeah. And I think you make a great point about getting first pitch outs or two pitch at bats. Scooble yesterday, where I was okay, punch outs are awesome. And obviously you
Yeah.
want to see Scooble, that number get high so we can maybe win a Cy Young. But I'm more excited when I get a first pitch flyout from Scooble. Keep that pitch count
Yeah.
down when he's at around 45 pitches in the fourth inning. I'm feeling comfortable. The game last week, God, who'd he throw against?
It was Scooble versus who's it?
Uh,
What team
was it
was it?
the
A's?
no, it wasn't the A's. It was the Twins, I
Was he?
think. No, I can't remember. But
But he was throwing like it was in his last start.
yeah, 70 pitches and or 80 pitches in 4 innings, and then you have to because those days I think Hinch is thinking, all right, we're gonna get 6 or 7 out of Scooble. We get to
Mm-hmm.
save our bullpen a little bit. We get Maeda tomorrow. Who knows how what's gonna happen there? We might have to use the
Mm-hmm.
bullpen a lot. But when Scooble's at 80 pitches through four, I mean, you run into some trouble there. I mean, this
Yeah.
bullpen has been in some high leverage, and they've thrown a lot of innings, and they're all
Yeah.
high leverage innings because it's not like we're scoring runs, and they're so no, and
They've been great, but
yeah,
they can't be relied upon like this all season. This
no,
season's way
they
too
can't.
long.
It's not. I say it all the time. Our pitching, I think, can win us the AL Central, but at some point, these bats need to wake up. I
They
mean,
have to.
I don't know. I'm just going to ask you straight up, Spencer
Let it
Torkelson. What
fly.
are you thinking? What are you thinking, Spencer Torkelson?
I'm 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 starting to get concerned. I'm giving him 100 at bats or about a month of the season before I like slam my fist on the table like something's got to change or you
Yeah.
got to. I don't know what the solution is. He has had historically slow starts, but nonetheless, you're relied upon now in year 3 to be the dude. Like you and Riley Green need to be carrying this team,
Hmm.
and that's why this offense has been so putrid. We knew they were going to have their struggles because they're so young and they got pieces, they got young pieces, but like they shouldn't be this bad because you should at least have those two carrying the load and
Yeah.
just at least most nights you don't know who's going to be the hitter that the team's going to rely upon, and that's not sustainable even with as nasty as the starting rotation and the bullpen has been.
Yeah.
So I'm close to being concerned.
Yeah. And okay, so you look at Scooble, he was handed the keys to that rotation. I think, Torkelson and Green were handed the keys to the lineup. They're to start the year, they were in the 3 and 4 spots. This is your
Mm-hmm.
lineup. You drive in runs, um, you know, and they just haven't done it. I mean, Riley
They're
Green,
not.
I love the at bats I'm seeing from Riley Green because last year's strikeouts were really a problem. I'm not saying they're a problem. They still kind of are a problem, but he's
Right.
walking a lot more. And in the leadoff spot, I mean, yesterday I think he got into how many 3-2 counts? That's just yesterday too. I think he got into like 2 3-2 counts. Day before, walked. I might have walked twice. I can't remember, but
You're
um,
yes. His at bats are much better. Like, and to be honest, for Torkelson too, the at bats and the approach, the discipline is far and away better. But there comes a point where you got to make hard contact with the ball. These pop ups that Torkelson's been having,
oh, it drives me up
trash.
a wall. Drives me up a
It, it
wall.
it's the worst. And then the next time he's up, he drives the double to the left center. Like there's got to be more consistency. The approach, and even with Parker Meadows too. Like thinking Riley Green and Parker Meadows, he's having a tough time. Meadows, he
Yeah,
just
homer
can't seem to
yesterday.
buy
That's
a hit.
big. That's big.
Oh, that was huge. That was
Yeah,
huge. But what I love to see, he's drawing walks, and
yeah.
his at bats actually are, most of the time really really good. He just
Hmm.
has this long swing, and he's just got to figure it out. And maybe that is in AAA.
Hmm.
But Green, I need more out of him too. He's been a little bit of a bright spot, or maybe just because Torkelson's been so bad.
Yeah.
Green has picked it up a little bit, but they both need to improve. They need to be your 3 and 4 hitters, or
Yeah.
your 1 and your 3, like big time. And they can be. They have that talent.
Yeah. And it's easy for me to say, never seeing a major league pitch in my life and plan on never seeing one because I'd be terrified. But
Terrifying.
I've noticed a Torkelson last year, I think he did a good job going the other way on pitches on the outer half. This year, he's only getting pitched down and away. And
Really?
I I would say most of the time, right? It's a lot. You see a lot of sliders down and away. See some fastballs on the outer edge, and I just think he's struggling to. He's not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
He's not trusting his. He's a great hitter. We've seen it, and great hitters can take that outside pitch, go the other way with power, and I think that's what we need to see. And I mean, him just like whiffing at fastballs down the middle
Yeah.
and popping them up. It's
Those are the ones you have to take advantage of. If you're working on
yeah,
things and you're making adjustments where, for whatever reason, I got to go look into it more. I haven't like dove in enough with these guys yet
yeah.
this season, and I trust you. So if you're doing new things, or if you've changed something that's affecting how you can get to that outside pitch, you
Mhm.
at least need to be able to hit that fastball when you see it and when you get
Yeah,
it. That's part of Javi Baez's. Javi Baez has many problems, and the slider it's an absolute joke show. But what
crazy.
makes him extra bad is he's missing the fastballs.
Yeah.
Like, at least occasionally back in the day, he would connect with a fastball.
Mhm.
He's not doing that. Although
No.
he's looked a little better these last like 2 games, but
Yeah.
it means nothing to me. He's got his issues.
Yeah, and yesterday with Torkelson, um, the situation was did we ever run around when Torkelson came up? Right, we did. He had a chance to
What
walk it off.
was this? Oh yeah, at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to, because
Oh,
I
no, they
didn't
went
see
one
it.
Green struck out. Then it was, Canna walked.
Canna,
Yeah, so
like
then
he
they had
always does.
yeah, so then we have Torkelson up, and usually, 3 hitter, big power hitter. You might see in a walk-off spot, where he has a chance to walk it off with a home run. You might see them pitch around him a little bit. Kirby Yates said, "Nope, I'm going right at this guy." And
That's a good pickup.
yeah, that was a little demoralizing to see. But yeah, just to wrap it up real quick, I want to talk about Colt Keith a little bit.
Yeah,
He
I'm a fan.
yeah, at the plate, he's been whatever. I mean, the at bats look fine. He's not hitting the ball too hard, but I'm so impressed with the work he's done at second base.
I'm blown away.
Yeah,
Like, I thought that was his biggest hole, like his biggest weakness. And
yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, we haven't seen much of him. I mean, I maybe just because I was covering the Lions last year, my first year here, so I was a little more checked out of the Tigers. While he was in the minor leagues, like I
yeah.
just didn't see him. You hear about his power. He had 27 home runs last year, uh, but to see what he's doing at second base, like that's he saved some games. I don't want to give him
Yeah.
credit for like winning games at second base, but he saved some games and made some really, really good plays and really high baseball IQ plays of
Mhm.
just that natural. You feel the ground and he knows exactly where to go. I forget what game it was in, but what he throw home? He threw home to get the runner
Yeah.
out in a double play. He's makes smart plays. His range is great.
Mhm. And that was supposed to be the problem with him. I don't see it at
Right.
all. I don't
And
see
I'm
it at
not
all.
worried about his hitting at all. Like, there are
No,
good at bats,
neither am
there are
I.
bad at bats, but what the good that I'm seeing is like the good of a future star. I
Yeah.
mean, I channel Jeff Kent while he's up. I'm like, whoa, are we seeing
Yeah.
Jeff Kent or
Chase
these sort of
Utley.
throwback
Yeah.
kind of power hitting, not huge, but not small second baseman.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
It's
excited.
fun,
I'm
and I
excited.
love. We'll talk about it maybe on another time I hop on with you,
Mhm.
but the whole concept around giving him that contract when they did, I loved it before I even saw him this year at the big league level.
Yeah.
I love it even more now that I
Yeah.
see the type of player that they invested in and how
Yeah.
they did it. Genius.
Yeah.
That's why I
Because
have faith. I have so much faith in this front office. I should pull back a little bit. I have faith in this front office. They're doing things the right way. We got to see what Chris Illich does.
yeah.
But I have this feeling he's going to spend when it's time. Like, that's his
Mhm.
biggest criticism. I think there will come a time where he realizes, all right, it's that time to move. I now trust Scott Harris and Jeff Greenberg.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and the bat's gonna come around. The only knock on him was the glove apparently coming in, but bat's gonna come around. But I'm gonna let you get going here, Matt. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
My pleasure, man. This is
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, everybody go check out Wake Up Woodward and follow Matt on Twitter at MattBro21. And yeah, again, thank you so much, man.
Appreciate it, Caleb. Thanks for having me on. We're gonna do this again.
For sure. Thank you, man.
See ya.
I'll see ya.
Oh,